Now that I've discussed what I've learned from the book, I'm going to discuss my criticisms of the book. Despite providing a lot of clarity regarding a lot of subject, it has immense and massive flaws. It really puts you into dark regarding a lot of things and gives you a very bad idea. It paints working for money as this form of evil. It portrays working as a Lucifer-like trait. You aren't supposed to work, you're supposed to... No, that's not really the right way to support. Yeah, just as any other financial literacy books, Rich Dad Poor Dad doesn't really provide much of a practical standing point. It just provides a bunch of codes which you are supposed to just sit and ponder upon, and it doesn't really provide you any sort of essential framework to start a successful business or a successful financial venture or do any sort of financial projects. What it teaches you is fun quotes here and there, and then the only important thing, which is the asset and liability chart. Now, the first problem with the book is you shouldn't work for money. Now, a lot of people, when they want to start a business or want to start any sort of project, they don't really have the sufficient funds or the money to fund their project or do any sort of business. So what are they supposed to do? How are they supposed to get money? They don't really have any sort of properties or assets in order to generate revenue so that they can put the money to work. So the problem I'm discussing here is that if they want to take a loan, they don't really have the collateral to provide in order to acquire the loan. They don't really have a job which you are demonizing as in order to provide a supplementary income so that they can work on their project. The idea here is that it may, to a lot of people, provide this false idea of making money out of the blue in order to fund your projects, like maybe begging money for people, but work, you shouldn't do work. Although he does mention working at Xerox and many other companies as salesperson, he doesn't really discuss much about how those jobs might be essential for making money. But he does make a good point about how you're supposed to take a job for gaining experience rather than making money. For me, in my opinion, both are essential. You will need the money in order to invest. You aren't really going to make money out of the blue, and getting into debt without any collateral is an extremely huge mistake. And taking money from others like relatives or your parents or your friends is a massive mistake as well. Like, in case you mess up with the business, then you won't really have any grounds to stand on. You will have to provide some sort of answer to them, and you'll have to give them back what you owe. Now, the second problem is regarding the education system. He demonizes the education to some extent that we shouldn't really get educated. He does say that we should get educated, but he portrays people that study in schools and universities as total idiots, and that they should be much more invested in financial literacy. What I'm saying is, yes, most people are interested in financial literacy, as in they want to get financial independence. They are acquiring jobs and getting vocations in order to achieve financial independence. But a society where everybody focuses on businesses or becoming entrepreneurs, that society is bound to collapse. To maintain a successful society, you need both entrepreneurs, as in traders, as well as skilled people to take care of the necessary sectors in a society. I don't think the society would be doing all that well if all the doctors suddenly disappeared selling Bitcoin or getting into the crypto bro garbage instead of providing treatments or helping people during their sickness. Now, the third problem I'm going to discuss is his debt fanaticism. So the third thing he discusses is how debt is money, how the feds print money, and we shouldn't really work for money. We should find out ways we can print money. Debt is not really the best way to get rich, and I don't think taking advice from somebody like Robert is going to jump on taking advice of actual multimillionaires or billionaires like Dave Ramsey, who oppose debt completely. If you're going to get into debt, it's a very risky thing, and it's like an art. It's a very sophisticated skill to acquire, and if you want to really get rich, debt is not really the best way to go about it. I've discussed 3 things I've learned from the book and 3 major criticisms I have. Now what I'm going to discuss is my opinion on Robert Kiyosaki. Robert is an amazing writer who is able to portray his idea in a crystal clear way, but when you take a look at his backgrounds, the books don't really reflect his writings or teachings completely. He actually seemed to have written his book around the year 1997, which was like during the dot-com bubble, and there was this huge demand for financial books. When there is a huge growth for financial literacy or financial independence, there is this emerging pattern that's when people tend to be obsessed with stocks and bonds and investing in general, trying to look for the easy way out. And eventually, after that, is what collapses happen. And he published his book during the dot-com bubble, where there was this huge demand for financial literacy. Everybody wanted to seemingly get rich, start their own businesses, and find their own free way. Before writing the book, he didn't really seem to be in a financially good position, which is contradictory to what his book is selling. I mean, if you are going to be selling the dream of getting rich or financially independent, at the very least, you will have to be free from the problem of financial dependence as well. But Robert wasn't really in any sort of businesses, and he wasn't really in a financially free situation. The whole thing comes out as hypocritical. Most of his fortune doesn't really come from what he teaches either. He actually became a multi-millionaire through his successful Rich and Poor Dad franchise and some of the games he publishes. If you take a look, he doesn't really promote any other businesses he has. Like, he talks about real estate here and there. That's about it, really. But his book is an international bestseller, and he has multiple other books. His wife is a writer as well. I'm sure he makes most of his money through writing books rather than the rubbish he preaches. If you want actual people that genuinely make money without selling their fake guru garbage, then you have writers like Thomas J. Stanley, who wrote his book around the same time as well, I think around 1999 or 1990, The Millionaire Next Door. It's an absolutely amazing book. He collects statistics and he portrays a very vivid picture of what types of neighborhood millionaires live in, and what sort of mentality they have, what sort of attitude they have. And Rich Dad Poor Dad doesn't really provide any sort of statistical analysis or any sort of practical steps. Now, the other thing about Robert Kiyosaki is that I'm sure if you guys read the book, you'll find this figure called Rich Dad. As the title suggests, there is a rich dad and a poor dad. But the title is kind of deceptive to some extent, but that's not really much of a problem since it sets a theme for the book. His actual dad, his biological father, is his poor dad, who was a teacher at school and maybe universities and had PhD, and was constantly trying to make accomplishments in his teaching career and tried to strive behind being a good teacher. And then he was against the privatization and was for public funding of schools. And this is why his father, who was poor dad but was educated and was institutionally accomplished in universities and had a job at schools. The idea is that despite being educated and smart in a very respectable profession, his poor dad couldn't really accumulate money or stay rich, since his poor dad had the general conception that you have to be very highly educated if you want to be financial success. His rich dad was actually not really his dad, wasn't really his stepdad, and wasn't really related to him. His rich dad was essentially his best friend Mike's father, and was his figurative father in terms of financial literacy and all that. But the thing is, the character of Rich Dad is actually a myth. In many interviews, Robert seems to have provided very contradictory opinions on who the Rich Dad might be, and sometimes even discounting the concept of who Rich Dad is as a whole. Like, Rich Dad is just a fictional character. The general consensus in the financial literacy and the personal finance community is that Rich Dad isn't actually real. He's a fake, he's bogus. He's just a fictional character who was used as an anchor for Robert to portray his ideas. Now, what I'm going to say is kind of controversial, since Robert Kiyosaki is, of course, the most prolific writer on personal finance. So just hear me out, guys. Just hear me out. What I'm going to say is controversial, but I'm sure you guys have watched the past of the video. I mean, you guys obviously must have. Yeah, please don't forget to subscribe and like and share the video, and maybe comment on what books you want me to review next, or maybe what some topics you want me to discuss. Okay, so Robert Kiyosaki, right? He is what you would call one of the least suspected but the most popular fake gurus in history. A lot of people that tend to sell fake courses online, and he's one of the fake gurus who began selling before the online thing even came about. And people like Tai Lopez are actually more authentic than Robert Kiyosaki. Yeah, but despite him not really being a representation of what he teaches isn't completely wrong and does provide some inherent value. So I leave it up to you guys. Do you think Robert Kiyosaki's writings are a scam? Do you guys think it's bogus? Or do you guys think it provides genuine value and just that he doesn't really represent what he teaches? So guys, I'm going to end the video here. I have discussed about many other topics pertaining to financial literacy before, such as about social media monetization, like how you could earn money through Twitter and YouTube, and then about how content creation is the new gold or is the new oil, and that's the next way you can get rich. So yeah, if you guys want to watch that video, you can click the link here. So see you guys.